Today we will talk about the life of one of the most feared drug traffickers in the history of Mexico. Heriberto Lazcano Lazcano is known as Z3, El Lazca, or El Verdugo. Heriberto Lazcano was a drug trafficker and ex-militant of the Air Mobile Group of Special Forces. He was born in the town of Apan, in the state of Hidalgo. He is known for being the leader of the Zetas cartel, an armed wing of the Gulf Cartel. The Zetas cartel was one of the most violent and bloodiest criminal groups in the history of Mexico. His criminal activities were extremely diverse and included a large amount of illicit activities including drug trafficking, terrorism, transportation of drugs, extortion, kidnapping, homicide, robbery of combustibles, theft of banks and armored vehicles, money laundering, and cybercrimes. These illicit activities caused a grand impact on the security and safety of the people in Mexico and other places. The name, Los Zetas, was appointed by Arturo Guzman de Sena, one of the founders of the organization. He was lieutenant for the GAFISA Mexican Special Forces Corps, and later a member of the Federal Judicial Police. The letter Z was a code reserved for officials of high rankings. The Federal Judicial Police who were in charge of a city were identified as Zetas due to their code being the letter Z. In between 1998 and 1999, Guzman de Sena began working for Ocil Cardenas Guillen, leader of the Gulf Cartel, and started recruiting at request from Guillen, who wanted the best men for the armed wing of the Gulf Cartel. Eventually Guzman de Sena began recruiting members in active service of the 15th Infantry Battalion in the city of Tampico, belonging to the 8th Military Zone located in Reynosa, Tamaulipas. It is said that at least 7 members of the Air Mobile Group of the Special Forces, known as GAFIS, deserted the battalion and joined the Zetas. In this group of deserters would be the capo, Heriberto Lazcano Lazcano. Lazcano joined the Mexican military at the age of 17 in 1991. He served in the military for 7 years until 1998 when he already reached lieutenant of the infantry. From there on, Lazcano decided to join the world of organized crime and was recruited by Arturo Guzman de Sena, LZ1, who co-founded the Zetas and who served the Special Forces according to the Secretary of Defense and federal authorities. Guzman de Sena was who took Lazcano to work for the Gulf Cartel, where he eventually became the most infamous Zeta of all. Lazcano received the code Z3, which indicates that he is third in hierarchy of the organization after Guzman de Sena, LZ1, and Rogelio Gonzalez, LZ2. Guzman de Sena died at a restaurant in the city of Matamoros on November 22, 2002, after getting in a shootout with the Mexican military. 2 years later, on September 12, 2004, Rogelio Gonzalez, LZ2, was detained by federal agents while in a truck with Texas plates carrying drugs, money, and a fake police badge. With these two gone, it left Lazcano as absolute leader of the organization. In 2007, the leader of the Gulf Cartel, Ocil Cardenas Guillen, was extradited to the United States after his capture in 2003. Tensions commenced between the Gulf Cartel and the Zetas. That same year there was a possible agreement between the Gulf Cartel and the Sinaloa Cartel that was not received well by Lazcano. Lazcano gathered his men to get their opinions on the situation. These events led to the absolute separation for the Zetas from the Gulf Cartel, creating the most infamous cartel in the history of Mexico. Under leadership of Lazcano, the Zetas were the fastest cartel to expand their territories. The Zetas were particularly cruel, with their rivals becoming synonymous with torturing, decapitating, and gruesome scenes in public spaces. The extreme violence of Lazcano earned him the alias El Verdugo. According to his lieutenants, he would sometimes feed his enemies and serve them to the tigers and lions that he had at his ranches, or would even make his enemies to fight each other to their deaths for his entertainment. It is also said that he would cook his enemies and serve them to his men. Under his leadership, the Zetas are accredited of popularizing dissolving bodies in acid and committing massacres. One of them is the massacre of 72 migrants in San Fernando, Tamaulipas, were killed for not paying ransoms and refusing to work for the cartel. The Zetas were also responsible for the death of 52 people in a casino in Monterrey because the casino didn't pay an extortion fee. This just showed how they ruled with an iron fist and impunity in which the cartel operated in the country. The Sinaloa cartel wanted to take Tamaulipas, Plaza, and the alliance with the Gulf Cartel led to a war with Lazcano, who would rather see the country up in flames than to lose to El Chapo or the government. In 2009, the Mexican government put him on the list of 37 major traffickers, and offered $2.3 million, and the United States offered a $5 million reward for him dead or alive. On the evening of October 7, 2012, in Progreso, Coahuila, the Mexican Marines were informed about a group of armed men and tried to detain the suspicious vehicles. However, the occupants of the vehicles refused to stop and fired upon the Marines. The driver Alberto Rodriguez died on the spot, and a couple meters away was a body of a guy without any identification, found with an AR-15 equipped with a grenade launcher. The body was fingerprinted and identified. The body turned out to be none other than Heriberto Lazcano Lazcano, the second most wanted man behind El Chapo was dead. A couple days later, the Zetas stole his body from where the autopsy was being held. In the town that he lived in, they considered him as a sort of Robin Hood-like figure. The locals began to mourn his death. In a church he had built had his picture above the entryway, and on a pillar was a plaque dedicated to him with a prayer inscribed. Every year during the church's festivities they have his ballads playing on bring bouquets of flowers honoring Lazcano. After his death the Zetas cartel started falling apart and practically died, splitting into two factions, Los Zetas Vieja Escuela and the Northeast Cartel.